Hi friends, it's Maddie of the Girly Geek and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here, nice to have you. Today I'm going to be sharing a bit of my February reading journal setup as well as a flip through of my January spreads. If you want a more detailed look at how I set up my reading journal for this year, that is up on my channel already. I went ahead and did all my beginning pages for most of the year, and also my January setup as well. And I'm going to be following a very similar structure this month in February. Here is a quick glimpse at some of my introductory pages for 2022. Just a couple of the, usual yearly things. And then we get into January with my monthly. I'm really glad that I decided to do monthlies in my reading journal this year because it was really great being able to see my progress throughout the month of my current reads, and it really helped keep me accountable. Then we have a summary of all my reads in January. I originally only allocated a 2-page spread, which was very dumb in hindsight. I added in this Dutch door after the fact because I thought I could keep it to 2 or 3 sentences, and clearly I cannot. Then the last thing we have is my January stats and my reading tracker. The combination of the reading tracker and the monthly really held me accountable and made me read a lot this month. So I'm really excited to continue with that. Throughout the month of January, I also realized I wanted these 2 additional pages. I wanted 1 page to note down a series that I intended to continue or revisit. And I also wanted to do an A to Z challenge as well. So I did those pages. They're not quite finished, but I'll get there very soon. Now onto the setup for February. As you can see, I've already gone ahead and sketched in the monthly layout. Then for my reading summary and thoughts, I made sure to include far more pages for my thoughts because clearly I can't keep things short and sweet. And lastly, again, I have my stats and my reading tracker pretty much exactly the same as January's. The planning and sketching phase is definitely the hard part, so now is the easy part, going over it in pen. I am using my favorites, the Sakura Pigma Micron fine liner pens. I've kept my reading journal pretty minimal when it comes to color. I only use a couple of mild liners in this blue color and also the grey. Apart from that, it's pretty much black and white. I just love how crisp and clean it looks. The first thing I did was looked back at my January monthly and kind of compared. I was debating whether or not I would keep this little TBR box because it's really slim and hard to fit titles into, but ultimately I ended up deciding that I did want to keep it, but I just needed to fix up the shape a little bit. Next, I got started on the lettering for the header, which is the month, February. I kind of, in hindsight, wish I kept it with these simple, clean lines and didn't actually fill them in. As you can see, I was kind of just working on spacing it out. I kind of like how clean and crisp it looks like this before I filled it in, but for continuity's sake, I just kept it the same as January. I will say it does stand out a lot more though with the black with the white line through it. It's definitely far more showy and attention grabbing, so I'm not totally opposed to it. When it does come time to fill in the letters, I found that the quickest and most convenient way is to use the brush tip. So I'm just using the brush lettering tip of the set to fill everything in. And then I usually wait a bit before I go ahead and use my Jelly Roll pen to do the white, because otherwise it just turns out grey and a little bit murky. So you gotta let it have its time to dry. Then it's time to actually go over the calendar for the month. I just use the same pens going over it. I don't want it to be too perfect. I like it to look hand-drawn, so I don't use a ruler. I just kind of go slow and steady. It helps to put another book underneath the left-hand side just to keep everything steady. Otherwise, I have a little bit of a difficult time. And then I just repeat the process. I am really happy with how using a monthly for my reading journal has turned out for me. I mean, it worked out really well in that I read a lot in January because I was reading every day. I think my problem last year was definitely accountability, and this has really changed that for me. I don't know why, but it's been much harder for me to maintain accountability in my reading as an adult than when I was a teen. Obviously, I have more responsibilities now, but even when I look back at the years that I read most as a teen, those were some of the most intense studying years. I remember I used to get asked a lot how I had so much time to read, and the answer is never that I had so much time. It's that I always made time. I'm a big believer that it's really, really important to make time for the things that charge your soul batteries. You know what I mean? The things that make you feel like you, the things that make you feel like there is sense in the world. And reading is one of those things for me, as is journaling and drawing. So it really works out well. I've also noticed that now that I'm out of university and out of school and I'm no longer commuting on public transport every day, that's taken away, a lot of the time that I dedicated to reading, because I knew every day that I would be on public transport. So I would always bring a book and I would always get a lot of reading done. And now that I don't have that commute, reading has to be a much more conscious effort. I really have to think about it and have the intention to read every day, otherwise it just won't happen anymore. It's not like there's just a lot of empty time in my day waiting around between classes or on lunch breaks anymore. Like, I used to literally have my book with me everywhere, in my school bag, my uni bag, and if I didn't, I usually, in high school, I had my Kindle in my blazer pocket and I would read in any spare moment I got, like if I finished my work early. And now that I'm out of that environment, I don't really have that waiting time to fill anymore. So yeah, it took me a couple years to kind of notice these differences. I mean, in the past 2 years, I've definitely not read as much as I used to, and it took me a while to realize that this was why. And now that I know why, I know that I can counter it with planning and allocating time, and having a monthly is a great way to do that. I am a very visual person, so having this monthly to literally see the progress I'm making each day and have a space to actually write down what progress I have made has been an absolute game changer. I don't want to leave the spaces blank, so I haven't been. And if you look on my January monthly, I wasn't necessarily marathoning books or anything, but I do think that I've been doing much better overall at being consistent. I think consistency is really key in this situation, because I just want to make sure that I have that little bit of me time every day, that time to disconnect, unplug, kind of suspend reality for even just a couple minutes each day, whether it be one chapter, 10 pages, doesn't matter, because it all adds up in the end. Next, I'm moving on to my February Reads summary page. There are a couple changes that I wanted to make from my January version of this spread. Number one was the amount of writing space that I allocated. It was nowhere near enough in my January spread. It was basically just a double page spread. I don't know why I fool myself into thinking I can summarize my thoughts into a really succinct, like 2 or 3 sentences. That's not my forte. So I definitely needed to include more space this time. I cut down the top so that they all shared a header, but then I went with a Dutch door style with some tabs on the side so that you could kind of differentiate between the different pages, and I wanted to make sure that they were adequately decorated as well. In January, I kept it really simple, but I think it was too simple to the point where it kind of just looks like a lot of text and the pages weren't as decorated as I would like. I wanted to make sure that I decorated the edges and the borders of the pages a lot more, just to make it look more interesting and not just like word vomit, you know? I kept the lettering pretty much the same as last month's, pretty simple, but a mix of like 3 types of cursive, some bubble lettering, and then some basic lined capitals, and then a little doodle in the corner as well. Last month I also did an illustration in this same spot, but this spread I wanted to add a lot more illustration than just this one little corner, and you'll see me get to that really soon. It took me quite a while to kind of figure out how to do the borders on these pages because I wanted the outer 2 double pages to look good, but I didn't want the Dutch doors to disrupt that cohesiveness so much. So as you can see, I'm trying to match the back to when the Dutch doors are open. A little bit difficult, but I just like continuity. I really wanted to make sure it flowed nicely. Once I had kind of figured out most of the collage elements, I wanted to go ahead and draft the illustrations. So I'm just going in with these simple line illustrations of books in various forms, open, closed, in different directions, just all around the page to create kind of a regular border. You can see everything really starts to come together once I do it in pen. It just pops, and it's a really nice way to make the page feel like it's not just a whole bunch of text. I pretty much just repeated the same style of illustration over a couple of the pages. Some of them I left more collagey, some of them more illustrated, just so there was a nice variation. On this page, I kind of did a combination. So I put a little scrap of craft paper down, and then I also used the illustrations to go over it. I thought that was a cool way to kind of layer things. Once I had finished the book illustrations, I went in with my mild liner and kind of just did a little bit of a drop shadow on the text to make it pop a bit. And then I decided I wanted to decorate a bit more with some little star clusters. I drew some in, and I also used this sticker sheet that I have in my shop of a bunch of different little stellar clusters as well. Just dotting them around the page, and then also filling in some additional ones where I felt like they needed a certain shape that I didn't have on my stickers already. I think it really helped pull it all together and make it look a lot more polished, so I'm really excited to see how it looks when I add in the text later this month. The next order of business was my statistics page. I am really happy with how my January one turned out, so I'm not straying too far from that this month. The main difference I wanted to make was the header. I wanted to shake things up a bit and do a bit of a collage / layering moment. I used my white pen on black craft paper and then did a little bit of collage. I thought it would be fun to layer it with some other craft paper just to make it pop a little bit. Then I went ahead and just started doing all of my rounded little boxes for all the different kind of things that I'm tracking throughout the month, and then filled those in and then did the text with my white Jelly Roll pen as well. I think this is probably the most simple spread that I do in all of my reading journal. It's mainly just, pen and paper, not too much collaging. It's mostly just me drawing, and I like how clean and minimal it looks. So I'm really happy to keep things simple in this spread. Then all that's left to do is go in with my mild liner and do a bit of drop shadowing, and then of course putting in the headers with my white Jelly Roll pen. I did feel that the bottom of the tracker page was looking a little bit sparse though, so I went in with some extra scraps of paper, and then I just decided to throw in a couple of star clusters here and there as well. Now that that's done, here is a look back at all the spreads that I now have done for February. That is pretty much it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed watching it all come together and maybe even found something useful in this. I don't know. I've found that I've come up with a pretty good system that works really well for me, so maybe this provides you with a little bit of inspo for something that'll work for you. That's all I can hope for, really. But I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know if you did by leaving a like and even a comment down below. Maybe tell me your favorite book you've read so far this year, because I'm always looking for recommendations. But apart from that, please be sure to subscribe if you want to see more from me in the future. And I'll see you guys really, really soon. Bye!